Sometimes when people don't pay attention, they miss this part. They miss out on the mystery of what's about to happen. Now look, do you see how the flame is in just one place right now? It's right here. But when I change the light, it's not going to be in just one place. It will spread all over the room. Wherever you go in the room, you can breathe it in. You can carry it with you out of the classroom. You can carry the light of the prophets with you to your cars, to the sidewalks, home, to your backyards and playgrounds, to soccer practices and school. You can bring the light of the prophets with you wherever you go. Now watch. Do you see how the light has changed? Where does it go? Where is it going? It's with us, but it's changed. Hi. Okay, so I'm going to continue with with the next week of Advent. So after you have completed your lesson the first week of Advent, then you take a moment for them to maybe share any thoughts that they might have. There aren't any specific wondering questions, but you could say, I wonder if you've ever spoken to a prophet, or if you've ever heard about a prophet. I wonder if you've ever heard someone point the way to Bethlehem. I wonder if you've ever pointed the way to Bethlehem. You can ask a couple guiding questions, but there's not a full-scale wondering during Advent, each lesson. And then at this point, you would send them off to do some worship time so they can read, write, paint, color, build with blocks. It's really up to them. Reminding them, though, that this is a very special time. It's a unique time in which they get to focus on this story and not be distracted by other things. So just an encouragement to them to use this time specifically to think about Advent, to think about the prophets, and not to use it as a chance to draw something they might draw in another situation or another place, but to think about the things that they learned today specifically. And after they've had time to have some worship, then you'll call them back together and you'll light the candle again, read from the story about the getting ready, that he's here portion of the story, and then putting out the candle, just speaking again about the candle of the prophets and reminding them of that, the importance of them pointing the way and getting us ready for Christmas. And then you'll have feast, remembering that feast is the precursor to communion, and so it's really an opportunity to think about how Jesus had a special meal with his friends, and we have a special meal with our friends, just like the adults do in the larger church sanctuary. Okay, so all of the things I just said and rattled off to you will be true after every single lesson, but now I'm going to just go through week 2, 3, 4, and 5 so that you can see how we build and build toward Christmas. And after each lesson, remembering that then you'll send the kids off to worship, help them tidy up, get them their feast, and read from the Bible, light the candles all over again, revisit that whole candle snuffing process, and the same will be true every single week. I think that's about it. So, okay, now I'm going to begin going through week 2, 3, 4, 5, and so forth. So each week then you would take back out the candle of the prophet, take back out the card of the prophets, and we're going to add to them as we go. You'll also always get out the Bethlehem model so that they can see that's what you're pointing toward. And you'll see that, as we go, I'll be adding other items to the underlay as well. So I hope this makes sense and that it's helpful to have it all in one big chunk, but bear with me because I know it is, 5 weeks of lessons. So let's move on to week 2. Friends, do you remember last week when we talked about the prophets? We talked about them pointing the way to Bethlehem. We talked about them listening so carefully to God, paying such close attention to what was coming, that they were helping the world to get ready for Jesus. Today, we get to talk about the Holy Family. We're going to light another purple candle. But before we do, let's take a look at this. You see that road to Bethlehem? See it traveling? There it goes. Something amazing is going to happen in Bethlehem. People are traveling there. Some of them know. Some of them suspect. Some of them have no idea. Now we have 2 candles. It's the second week of Advent. We're getting closer. It's coming. Almost there. Along the road to Bethlehem, we know there was a donkey. We know there was a mother. We know there was a father. Here's Mother Mary, Jesus' mommy. She was the one who had Jesus inside of her. And here is Father Joseph. He was there with Mary to take care of her, trying to help her, trying to guide her on that long road to Bethlehem. And of course, here's that donkey. Mary was about to have a baby. Some of your mommies have been very pregnant before, or you've seen people who are very pregnant. It's hard to walk when you're really pregnant, especially on a long road, miles and miles along the way to another city. It's very hard to walk. And sometimes she couldn't take another step. She was exhausted, so sometimes she would ride on the donkey. But that wasn't very comfortable too. Have you ever ridden on a donkey? It's hard. It hurts your back. It hurts your back end. It's hard. So sometimes Mary would get tired of that. And when she couldn't ride it for even one more moment, then she would get down from the donkey and she would walk. And she would walk until she couldn't walk another step, and she'd get back on the donkey, and she rode and she walked and she rode and she walked. It was a very slow way to travel. Joseph was very patient with her, and with the donkey too, I'm sure. Goodness, all sorts of people were traveling to Bethlehem because anybody who was the great-great-great-great-grandson or great-great-great-great-granddaughter of David, King David, who we learned about, they all had to go to Bethlehem because they all had to write their name down on a long list to show who was part of the family of David. And Joseph was, so he and Mary had to travel there. But goodness, they must have been the last people to show up because all the people were walking to Bethlehem, and poor Mary and Joseph and the donkey had to go slow, slow, slow. It took a long time. It took a long time to get there. Let's enjoy this light, the light of the prophets, the light of Mary and Joseph on their way to Bethlehem. And now, we'll change the light. Do you remember last week when we changed the light? It was in just one place, but then it changed, and it was all around us. The same is true for the light of Mary and Joseph, the light of that long road. Teachers, at this point, then you would change the light of the prophets, kind of take a moment to let that settle. You would change the light of the Bethlehem candle, the Holy Family candle, and you would let that do kind of its slow disbursement. Again, go into worship time. Again, go into, pardon me, again, go into feast time and so forth. And then you travel through just sort of the same routine of that lesson. Look at this. This is the third week of Advent. Do you see those 3 candles? What do you notice is different about the third one? Here are the first 2 from last week. Light of the prophets, the light of the family. I wonder what this light is about. We talked about the prophets. We talked about Mother Mary, Father Joseph, and the donkey. But now the light is different. Now the candle looks different. We know that something incredible is going to happen in Bethlehem. But what is it? Remember, they must have been so late, arriving way after everybody else. All the way to Bethlehem, very late at night, I'm sure. Well, now today we talk about some other people who were near Bethlehem, the shepherds, with their animals.